All right, today's title is The Authority of Jesus, and this will be part one. We have, I believe, like part two and part three of this. So, this first part is Matthew chapter 8, verse 1 through 17. Let's begin. So, over here, we're going to start out going back to Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, verse 20 and 29, and it says, "And when Jesus finished these things, these sayings," so this is when he was saying the Sermon on the Mount. So this was back in Matthew chapter 5 to the end of chapter 7 here. And over here, you'll see that the crowd, it says the crowd were astonished. So they were just really amazed at his teaching. For he was teaching them as one who had authority and not as a scribe. So this will be a theme that's going to be carrying on here, and it was very important that the people saw not only the miracles that Jesus did here, but there are so many things here, but it's clearly showing that Jesus is here. He is proving over and over again that he is the Messiah. And once again, one of the names for him is Emmanuel. And what does Emmanuel mean? It means God with us. That should give us an understanding of who he is. He is God, and the things that he's doing, like the miracles he's doing over here, it's clearly showing that there's no one else that can do that, right? So now that he's actually, so he finished, like all of the teachings over there, Sermon on the Mount, and also once again, you when you go there, you'll see that he is not not actually breaking the Old Testament. He's actually giving more clarity, and many people needed to understand that. Actually, what you could say, he's going to the heart of the matter, and people need to understand about that. And when it's all said and done, people should actually come away with actually reading the Old Testament or even reading the Sermon on the Mount, which is a very short version of that, right? Where people should say, okay, then there's no way for me to actually be able to do this, and that is the right way of the right conclusion. There's really no way that we can be saved. There's no way that we can be good enough. There's no way on our own way that we could actually follow these laws. And that was a fallacy of the Pharisees and these teachers of the law here. And also, whenever you think about any kind of religion, if you feel that you're able to do those kind of things, you're able to be good enough by doing all kinds of stuff and paying your way, and if you feel that that is possible, then you're getting the wrong message. Jesus says, basically what he's saying is that you need a savior. You need someone that will rescue you from this wretched situation. And people are realizing that. Now what you're going to see is that there's many people that will continue to follow him. Some will, well, I would say most will follow for the wrong reasons. And we're going to address that. He's going to address that here real soon. But there's going to be the few, and the disciples are definitely one of this group that really gets in, and they don't get it fully. They don't they don't understand fully here. And we're gonna, as we go to the study, you can realize that they themselves didn't fully get it, but they had enough faith in Jesus to know that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and they followed him. So that's a real big thing here. Mark chapter 11, verse 18 says that the Pharisees, what happened was they wanted to, yeah, I mean, they also realized this here too, but the reaction that they had to Jesus was actually not about astonishment. I mean, they were astonished, but they felt that their way of living, and it was very prosperous, their teaching and all that kind of stuff was going to be usurped by Jesus. They wanted to kill him, honestly. But the thing is, they feared Jesus and they feared the crowd that follow Jesus. So we're going to see that played out, and obviously we know the story that unfolds here, and ultimately part of the salvation story is that God allows these people to have their way and eventually kill the Messiah. But in the midst of all that, they don't even realize this until later on that that was all part of God's plan. Let's go on. This part is a interesting thing here because one of the things that happens is I'm not sure if this individual was there to listen to the message, the Sermon on the Mount. It was probably, like my guess is this. My guess is that he has seen so many miracles or he has heard about them and he is clinging on to some hope. Now, with leprosy and many of these, many things, people get hopeless. Help, and leprosy is something that people find hopeless. But now that there's Jesus and he's hearing that he's casting out demons, he's healing the sick, he's doing all these things. He's clinging on to hope. And what does he do? We're going to find out more about that here. So Jesus definitely has the power over leprosy. Before we go on, let me share with you this passage here, or this is from Exalt Jesus in Matthew. This is from David Platt, and he said this. The main idea, Jesus possesses absolute authority in the world and warrants absolute allegiance from the world. And it is so true here. So let's go back to the message here and let's go to the passage. Now we're going to go into Matthew. So Matthew chapter 8, verse 4, 1 through 4. When he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. So notice there's all these people around him and they're following him. And behold, a leopard came to him and knelt before him, saying, now, I want you to know, I want you to understand that this was a shocking thing. Lepers don't do that. In fact, what they normally do is that they say is unclean. We're going to get there. But he says this. He says he's crying out. He's falling down. You can see that he's worshiping Jesus. Now he doesn't fully understand everything about him, but what he does know is that he's probably thinking that he is someone very special. He probably actually believes that he is the Messiah. So he's worshiping, understanding that he is a Savior, that he is Emmanuel, God with us. And he says this, Lord. And notice the word Lord over here. It looks exactly the same as before when we saw these individuals, and this is the end of time, and these individuals meet Jesus. Jesus is the judge, and this is when they're at in a sense, the footstep of heaven, in a sense. But then they're saying, Lord, Lord. Now, when they say that, they actually means more like, Sir, Sir. And of course, Jesus said, I never knew you. Now, over here, he says, Lord, and we're going to see over here that there's a difference here. And I believe that this is saying more like my master, or you could even say my king. So, Lord, my master, my king, if you will. Look how powerful that is. And this is, I think, a good understanding of prayer. It's not that we command God. He's not our genie, but he's acknowledging that God can do anything. You can make me clean. So he's acknowledging that all things are possible with God. Great faith. But he's also saying though that it's your choice. You have the power, and I am just your servant, if you will. I'm your servant, and will you please? So he's begging, he's worshiping, he's doing that, but he's also once again acknowledging that you can do it, and he says you can make me clean. Look how powerful that faith is, and we have to have that faith in prayer, in our walk with God. We need to like understand that we're His servant. Once again, we have to say, God, you are my master. You're my king. I will follow you wherever. So back in the Old Testament, Leviticus chapter 13, you'll find um, what what the Bible says in terms of how to deal with a leopard, leprosy. Priests pronounce this individual. They would inspect this individual, uh, and they would once they found out that there was some leprosy, they could see it, and they will say, "You are unclean." Now, I mean, look how um, just devastating. This individual will feel when he feels that he's unclean. And anytime that someone is pronounced unclean, they actually have to go outside the camp. So, but then for this particular situation here, they have to, because it is a very deadly disease, they have to go out. And every time they see anybody, they would have to cry out and say unclean. I mean, further away, so that individual has clear warning that he is a leopard. Now he normally lives alone. A lot of times they had leopard colonies, so they had all these people there, and they're all leopards there, and they're helping each other out. But slowly by slowly, they're all dying out because of this disease there. So another aspect I want you to understand here is that you know they're not they're not really being able to interact with people that are not leopards, people that are in the camp, people that are you could say normal. So they feel very unnormal, they feel strange. Anyway, with that includes not talking, not being noticed in a sense, not touching. This was a touching disease in a sense. So you cannot do that. Um, I want us to once again go back here and let's talk about leopard. Leopard, and I'm getting this information here from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. And then over here it says leopard. A leopard suffer from a specific form of microbacteria infection that was dreaded in antiquity and that until 1960 was regarded as intractable and incurable. That's a real big thing. To reduce um, um, the psychological trauma reported by sufferers, the condition has been renamed Hansen's disease after G.A. Hansen, who discovered the causative was the organism. When you look at this right here, you see that this was 1960. That might be a long time ago for many people, but some people, I mean, are still around because that's only about 60 plus years ago. That's not that long ago, you know. So that's probably, for some people that is you. I mean, you're only 60 plus years old. Some people that is your father, that is your grandfather, right? Anyway, that's not that long ago. Many of these individuals are still alive, so they know very much about this disease there. So it's very, very dangerous. Let's actually go back to the passage again. So let's go now to the next passage, verse 3. It says, and Jesus, look at exactly what Jesus does. So he hears him and he gets closer to him. People are just shocked. Some people are probably maybe even grossed out because, and some people are confused. But some people are also seeing that his teaching is now in action, right? So he's going over here and he gets close to him and he stretches out his hand and he literally touches him. That's a real important thing because once again, people are saying that that's something you can't do. Jesus says, I am beyond that. This disease will not affect me here. In fact, I'm going to do something with this disease, saying, I will. Remember, he said, if you will, and basically, Jesus says, well, thanks for asking. I will, I will, I'll do that. And you have the faith to do this here. And it says, be clean. Isn't that kind of an unusual thing? Remember, they were pronounced unclean. So this was a very powerful thing for this leopard. And I mean, he had a name. The Bible doesn't actually give a specific name, but he was a person. And to Jesus, he says, you are a person to me. You're not just a leopard. You are important. And in fact, him coming down, I mean, Jesus already knew this here. And one of the reasons why he came down was probably because he wanted to meet this individual, um, and he wanted to cure him. He wanted to set him free from this deadly disease. And look at this. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. I mean, his whole life was changed. And look at what it says. Jesus can touch him since what? He is more powerful than the leprous disease. And you'll find more detail in Mark chapter 1, verse 40 to 44. And then look at what Jesus says. Jesus says to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go. Show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded for proof to them. So when you read in Leviticus, it actually shows you like what kind of gift that they need to present. It's like a clay jar, 2 birds, different things like that here. But anyway, it's an interesting thing. Now it's interesting that Jesus says, don't say anything to anybody here, not yet. He's not saying don't say it, because the entire crowd is going to be talking about this miracle. They're going to be like, did you see this miracle? That was like, I mean, when it comes to like miracle, that was like way up there, right? But he says, go first. Do this first before you do anything else. And, he's going to go to the priest. He's probably going to bring some witnesses as well. There's probably going to be some people that was in the crowd that says, hey, listen, I'll go with you. I can be a witness. Maybe he had 3 or 4 people that was right there. It's very possible that, remember, there was other lepers. So maybe like maybe there is an actual leopard that still has a leprosy that's going to go there in a distant, so that way that individual can actually confirm that yes, he was part of our colony, he was there anyway. And the big thing over here is that it's it's showing the priest that something is happening. This is not something normal. Remember, this was incurable. So the priest they're not used to this. For hundreds, thousands of years, they've never seen this kind of case before. But it should show them that something is happening. So now the priest sees this. He has no other choice. Look at this, but to pronounce him clean. But by doing that, they're also saying that they accept this miracle. They're probably going to say, who did this? And he's going to say it was Jesus. People are going to say, yeah, it was Jesus. The leopard that came, it was Jesus, right? So I also want you to kind of think about this. Throughout the day, Jesus is constantly going and he's healing people. He's probably telling them, go to the priests, do what Moses commanded. So they had to look into the Bible. They had to find exactly what it is. Now, these individuals, they probably know exactly what to do when they get healed. So they're going to, so imagine like maybe 5, 10, 15 of these individuals coming to the priest every single day. And then they're all, and everyone's saying it was Jesus. So the problem, I mean, you would think that by now that they're like shocked. They're probably going, okay, um, we should also believe in Jesus. It's very clear. They should also understand that this is the Messiah. So not to put him down, not to try to kill him, they should also worship him as well. But that's not what they did. They were fighting him every single step of the way, which is very, very sad. Let's move on here. And we're going to now talk about the next the next place that Jesus is going to go to, and we're going to get there right away. So notice here was a Sermon on the Mount, right about here, as you can as you can see, and he's going to travel a distance. Um, and it says, "If Jesus performed many miracles in his own city," Matthew follows Jesus right here, so you'll see that, and that's in Capernaum. So let's actually go to that place. And now we're actually going to be talking about the Jesus' authority over paralysis. So now we have, so many of these. Jesus has a power, the authority to do all this. Now, before we actually go on to here, I want to talk to you about what just happened. Like when Jesus performs these miracles, what is really happening here? Um, I mean, even in the that other miracle when it came to the leprosy, it says, "I will." So let's actually go back to that. So let's go back. It says, "I will be clean." Now, what is he saying over here? Is he saying be clean to the individual that was pronounced, um, that person himself? Or is he saying something else? I believe that what he's doing is that when it says be clean, that he's actually commanding the leprosy to be gone. I want you to kind of think back in the Old Testament and then think back to when God was calling Moses, and Moses is interacting with God here, and pretty much the interaction is, God, um, these individuals, they're not going to know that I am being sent by you. And God says, okay, take your staff, throw it down, and it becomes a snake here. So he runs away from that, and he says, and God says, grab it by the tail here, and it becomes a staff right away. God then says, put your hand into your cloak and take it out, and his whole hand becomes leprous. And he's now freaking out. And God says, put your hand back in the cloak and put it back out, and became completely brand new. So God has a power over all this. But as you begin to read the miracles of Jesus here, and imagine it through kind of a spiritual lens, and you'll see that the things that he's doing, he's commanding these things, commanding leprosy. Isn't that crazy, right? The disease to be gone. You know, God can do all that kind of stuff. He can command that, command, the the evil spirits. He can just command and just go here. So let's go here now to this part. Matthew chapter 8, verse 5 to 13. When he had entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appealing to him. Centurion actually appears many times, and these individuals are very noble people. By the way, they're warriors, and we're going to go into more detail about them. And he says, "Lord, the same exact thing." So remember, appealing, he's worshiping, and I believe that he has the same kind of faith as a leopard, and he says, "My master, my king." Now think about how powerful that is. And it says, "My servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly." In Luke chapter 7, it actually goes into more detail, verse 1 through 10. And then in that passage, it says that the elders, the Jewish elders over there, they were actually going to Jesus and says that this is a great man. Please help him. Will you please help him, right? And they described two things. They said that this man loves our nation. So in other words, he loves God, and he loves God's people. And the way that he proved that here, besides just doing a lot of good things for them, he also built them a synagogue. So I mean, so obviously he loves the Lord. Now, Jesus is God, so he knows all this. He knows this individual very, very well. So let's actually go on to the passage. And it says here, um, verse 7, and he said to him, and and that is Jesus, I will come and heal him. But look at what verse 8 says. And sometimes we get the misunderstanding of this here. I think some people, they see this and they're like, man, this guy's really cocky. No, not at all. Just the opposite. Look at what it says here. But the centurion replied, Lord, once again, my master, my king, I am not worthy. Now he's looking at his status in a sense, his position with Jesus as nowhere near. I mean, he's probably he's not a Jewish person, right? So he's already thinking he's already outside of like God's favor. He doesn't belong even in the same room, the same table. No way. So he's like, I am not, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof. That's kind of what he's saying. And he says, you know what? I'm a nobody. I am, like, and I'm probably someone that you don't even like, you don't even love. And we're gonna find that's completely wrong here. But anyway, what he's saying is that I am not worthy. I'm a nobody. But only say the word, and my servant will be healed. He understands something. We're gonna get over here. He his servant was highly valued. He was a very good master. And this individual, the servant, was probably someone like, and my picture that I see is someone like a Joseph. And when you read the Bible in Genesis, you'll see that Joseph was a very competent man that really served his master very well. Potiphar loved him. And, like he saw that he was intelligent, he saw that he was capable. So eventually Joseph became the head servant, and that was leading all the things, right? All the other servants and the entire household. Even in the jail, he was a very good servant here. And later on, when he became second in command, right underneath the Pharaoh, he became a very good servant to Pharaoh. So you could see that this servant was very highly valued by this centurion, right? Before we go on over here, let's actually go to what a centurion really is here. So centurion um, is a commander of 100 soldiers. Now, usually it's about anywhere from 80 to about 100 in a Roman legion. Now, we're going to get to that word again, legion, here pretty soon. Not in this sermon, but um, soon here. Roman legion, and a legion which consists of 6,000 men. 6,000 men. So just kind of imagine that. A centurion was a prestigious member of a relatively small class of military leaders. So if you look at how many here, I think I have another one over here. This is for the army here. The army was also comprised of non-Roman auxiliary soldiers. These were soldiers conscripted from various regions throughout the empire to fight alongside the legions, right? So this is a different kind of thing. But the reason why I point this out here is that they were paid less than the legionnaire, but they can be rewarded as a Roman citizenship after completing about 25-year term. So that's an if, by the way. It's not a guarantee. But over here, you'll see that these centurions, they actually receive a substantial pension upon retirement and can easily count among the local notables of a town. So now we see a little bit more detail of what's happening. Let's go back to the passage. And now, when you actually go into another passage, and going back to the passage of Luke, um, you'll see that that this individual here, apologize here, let me go back here. Okay. Anyway, you'll see that this passage, this story is in different accounts, and you also see that this centurion actually considered the servant, and a different gospel says that he's a son. Now he's not the literal son here, but just the way that he looks at this individual, this the servant, he actually is so close to him that he considers him a son. So think about how that. Verse 9, for I too am a man under authority. This is the centurion saying, under authority. And he does. I mean, he understands how to take orders, but he also knows how to give orders with soldiers under me. And I say to one, look at this, go, and he goes. No questions asked, right? And another, come, and he comes. Once again, no questions asked. And to my servant, he's talking about that exact servant, do this, and he does it. No questions asked, right? So I want you to understand that this is a a clear, I mean, a great lesson of how to follow God, and this Roman centurion understood that, and he understood that Jesus has the authority. He understood very well about faith, and basically what he's saying is that I I'm a man that gives commands, but I'm a man that also receives commands here. So you just say the word, and I will believe, and I will just do it. You know, no questions asked. I'm thinking about how powerful your Christian life will be with God if you are like this and you say, "I am your servant." Exodus chapter 21 says something very interesting. It talks about a servant that actually changes his status, and because he loves his master, and he says that my wife and my kids, we're all servants here. We're gonna um, we're gonna tell the courts that we're gonna be a different kind of servant because we love you, we love this master, and we have confidence in him, and we have no problem being a servant for the rest of our lives under him. So they label him a different kind of person, and they say that he is a bond servant. And it's very interesting that when we get to the New Testament here, you'll see many individuals, such as Paul and different people, that will label themselves as a bond servant to the Lord. And think about how what would happen in your life if you um, become a bond servant to God. And I have decided to be a bond servant to God many years ago, and I would never leave because I mean, God is so good. He loves me, and He's so good. Thank God about that here. This Romans, uh, the centurion understood about authority. He understood about being a servant. He understood about giving commands and receiving commands. So let's go to the next one here. So now we see that Jesus, remember, he's always looking at someone's heart, always looking at someone's intention, and he sees it clearly now. When Jesus heard this, he marveled. And you know what? I mean, he was impressed. It's pretty hard to impress God here, but he was impressed and said to those who followed him, he's looking around, looking at his disciples, looking at everyone around, all the crowd, looking at the Pharisees and the Sadducees and whatnot there. And he says, truly, I tell you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith. Look how powerful that is. Jesus was impressed at his depth of knowledge and understanding of faith. There's very few. I hope that you become one of the few, but hopefully you're understanding this faith. This is a very powerful faith. We got to get here. So now Jesus actually gives us a deeper understanding of this here. And then look at what it says. I tell you, many will come from east and west. So that's the symbolism. That language is talking about people that are outside of the Jewish community here. They're talking about, what you would say is, we would say is Gentiles, right? But in reality, another word for that is non-Jewish people, people that are normally not supposed to be, be saved. But then here, east and west, right? And recline at at table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. So basically, what it's saying over here is that these people are not supposed to be there, but they are there. They're actually inside. So Ephesians chapter 3, verse 6 says, sinners saved by grace of Jesus. So, I mean, it's Gentile. I mean, it can be the Jews as well here, but what's happening here is that they have to understand that they accept that they're a sinner. And it's not by works, but they're saved by the grace of Jesus. And these individuals will be in the inside. They're in heaven. Now he talks about he says, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness. So when you go back into the Sermon on the Mount, he talks about this all throughout. But then the sons of the kingdom, this is, he's referring to the Jewish people. He's referring to the people that were actually supposed to be called by God, and they were meant to be, this group of the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, and they were meant to be this chosen race, separated. Holy means separated, and they were supposed to be, the people of God, right? But the thing is, as the people of God, they were actually supposed to be an example, not to be intermixing with everybody here, not to do whatever other people, I would say the worldly things here. They were supposed to live differently, but at the same time, their calling actually was to bring the entire nation. When you read about uh, you know, was it how God is actually talking with Abraham? He was called to bring the entire nation, his family, you know, to God. That was the calling, but that's not what's happening over here. And these individuals, they're getting the wrong picture here. And it says they're thrown into the outer darkness. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So that's a symbolism of hell. People thinking they are righteous by their bloodline, which is a Jew, or by works, even if you're not a Jew or not. And many people are trying to go to heaven by works, will be what? In the outside. They're going to be in hell. We don't want to be in this picture. So Jesus is now clearly giving a warning. He's looking at everybody, giving a warning to everybody, all the people, disciples, and also especially those people that are teachers of the law. And it says, and to the centurion, Jesus said this, go, let it be done for you as you have believed. And the servant was healed at that very moment. If you want to get a really good, deeper, analysis of the story, go to John chapter 4, verse 46 to 53. It is a fascinating study here. So now we're talking about the next part, and Jesus has the power over sickness and also demons. So it's let's go here. It says Matthew chapter 8, verse 14 through 17. And when Jesus entered Peter's house, remember this is the Apostle Peter, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick with a fever. Now let's just stop over here. Some people believe that Peter was single, that that he wasn't married. It is very clear, and for those people here, I mean, you know, when we correct somebody, like especially with the biblical knowledge, right, information, make sure that you do it very gently. You don't know the full story. I mean, these individuals are they're probably very nice people, whatnot. They just you know they're deceived, right? So when don't attack somebody like if that person says, you know what, I just love the Apostle Peter, and I pray to him all the time, and like he is, he's our saint, and this individual was not married and whatnot. There, you could say, you know, it's. Would you be okay for me to show you in the Bible just something that that you said something here, and I just want to see if I could show you something, right? That might be a great way of doing it. And he's like, most of the times if you do that kind of way, that person will go, hey, yeah, absolutely, and then you just quietly open up the Bible here, go to Matthew chapter 8, and then you go right to verse 14, and you just read that, or you could even have that other individual read it. Now, if that person is very genuine, like sweet person is reading that, that person is probably gonna get it right away. He's like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you telling me that the Bible is saying that Peter had a mother-in-law? And if it's a mother-in-law, that means he's married, and that mother-in-law is his wife's mom. And and basically, sometimes just let the Bible speak. Speak for you. Once again, gently. It's not You're not there to attack this individual. You're not there to crush, all the things, because it's going to take time. And this individual maybe struggling, maybe struggling with this whole idea of leaving the Catholic Church and different kind of things. But then with something like this here, it's going to like cause it this in a very gentle way to say, you know what, I think I need to read the Bible. I need to really understand this. And when they do that and they're reading the Bible here, the truth will come out. So, and don't force it. So in verse 15, and he touched her. I mean, he touched her hand. Once again, we see that touch again. And the fever left her, and she rose and began to serve him. In Luke, same story. This is kind of interesting thing here is that he rebuked the fever. Now I want you to I'm going to stop here and kind of talk about this. Um, in Luke here, the disciples were very concerned for Peter's mother-in-law. They were actually saying, Jesus, please, would you please go see Peter's mother-in-law? Now, if it was just a fever, it's not a big thing here. But these individuals, just like us, when the fever is so high, when the temperature is so high, there is it warrants someone to say, okay, this this right here is very dangerous. Imagine if you had a fever that was 101. May not be a big thing, but what if the fever went to 106? Yeah, yeah, you're like, okay, this is because of all the things that could happen, right, with a high fever, and and that person could die. So what if it rose to 110? Now we're talking about a very dangerous level. So obviously there was something here, but it's really interesting that he rebuked the fever as if it was some kind of evil spirit. We don't know what it was, but what I do want to say here is that Jesus has the power over the sickness. And once again, rebuking, pretty much saying go, then the fever left her, and then she became normal again, and she was able to serve him. Think about the power of just that, you know. And Jesus is able to do all that. And now we go to this next passage, and it says that evening they brought to him many who were oppressed by demons, and he cast out the spirits with the word and healed all who were sick. I want you to kind of imagine now Jesus having a full day. He's teaching. I mean, we don't see him resting. I mean, he's probably eating something here, but then if you're ever busy here, he's probably eating and eating something real quick, and he's talking. He's probably not eating properly, right? And and doing he's so busy. I want you to think about that here, and then because he loves the people, like probably at a certain point, the disciples, people are saying, Master, uh, why don't we like let all these people go here? Why don't you get some rest? Why don't you like get a good hearty meal, and let them just go? And Jesus actually does the opposite. He goes, no, 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 let them come. And you'll see that over and over again. Let them come. Let them come over here. I will take care of them. Like, remember, Jesus is God. All these people, including you and me, are his. We are his creation. You know, and when you read the creation account, you'll see clearly that man and woman are very special to God, and that's why he saved them in a sense the best for last. And we have a very special kind of calling, right? We're also made in the image of God, so he's seeing all these individuals that are struggling, that are sick, that are demon possessed. I mean, every different kind of thing that's happening here, and he's setting people free every single time, and he loves it. We should love it as well. We should love it when people get set free. You know, I love it. But then imagine how much more God will love it. And Jesus is just so happy about it, but he is getting tired, and we're gonna get there. So what does heal mean? It means to restore. Restore your life again here, and he's rebuking the demons with just one word. Like that word's probably go, and they're all gone. So basically, all just to kind of give you like an understanding here, is that all these people, they're carrying something. They have something that's a um, and, he's healing them. So all the fever is gone. It's leaving the person. Demons and evil spirits gone, leaving the person. So and then that person's being restored, and um, that is how we should see salvation. We are meant to be restored. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. He took our illness and bore our diseases. And once again, the prophet Isaiah tells a lot about the prophecy of the Messiah, which is God with us, and he's fulfilling. So to Matthew, the book of Matthew will go on and on about, this is to fulfill the prophet, Old Testament here. So he's clearly showing the Jewish people, and including us, giving evidence and proof that Jesus is the Messiah. When you go to Isaiah chapter 53, verse 4, and then also this right here, it's talking about, that Jesus fulfilled Old Testament prophecy of the Messiah here. Let me show you this one other slide. So this, I'm getting this here from the Thompson Chain Outline on a study series here, and you'll see, um, very quickly here about how Jesus is fulfilling the history, the characteristics, the title, and the mission here. If you want to stop the video and take a quick little, on a screenshot of this, that'd be good here. So that way you could do your own study. This is all in the book of Isaiah, and he is, I mean, he's all there. But he's the liberator. See this right here? He's the liberator. He is the intercessor. He is the righteous king. He is. Yep, he's Emmanuel here, and he's bringing all this right here. He is justice. He's compassionate. He's our saving power. So hopefully you'll understand all this here. So let me end with this, guys. George Whitfield, a very powerful preacher. Like he was in a time with John Wesley and whatnot there. So, but then, let me kind of tell you what he did here. So he says something very profound, and he gave a lot of sermons, very powerful sermons. One of the things that he's known for is that he's able to speak in a field, and he's able to project his voice, and many people throughout. I think even to about a mile was able to hear this individual here. Okay, so he says this: what need is there for them now that we see, he's talking about miracles, now that we see greater miracles every day done by the power of God's words? Do not the spiritually blind now see? Amen. Yes. Are not the spiritually dead now raised? Yes. And the leprous soul now cleansed? Mm-hmm. And have not the poor the spirit was it, have not the poor the gospel preach unto them? Yes. And if we have the thing already, which such miracles were only intended to introduce, why should we tempt God in requiring further signs? He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. I could totally, see that when Mr. Woodfield over here, when Pastor Woodfield is preaching this, that I'm hearing a lot of amen, amen. I would have actually done the exact same thing. All right, guys, I hope that this was a great lesson for you, and just have a great week. But we're all praying that you guys will grow in Christ, and one of our prayer is that all of you guys will become a disciple of Jesus, and that we're going to fulfill the commission that we will be. It says, make disciples. So let's actually strive to that. Pray for that. All right.